So I've been back in England now since I finished seminary, 8 years. And my first placement as an assistant priest, as a curate, was at Brentwood Cathedral. And I spent 2 very happy years there. When you come to the end of your time, it's customary that there'll be a small celebration, like you say a mass, and then a reception afterwards. And the people, while you're away, will have had a little whip around for you. So when the priest leaves the parish, he has a bit of money. I'm not dropping any hints, don't worry. So he has a bit of money. And so I had a bit of money in my bank account, and the parish priest of the cathedral gave me some advice. He said, James, what you want to do with that money is invest it in a piece of furniture. And whenever you move from parish to parish, buy another piece of furniture. I'm like, why would I want to do that? He said, well, you never know when you become a parish priest whether you move to a presbytery and there's going to be no furniture, it's just going to be a pigsty and you're going to have to start all over again. So he said, buy a piece of furniture. So I did. So here was the first ever piece of furniture I bought. That sits in my living room now. It's a luxurious L-shaped couch, and it has one purpose in mind, and that is to give your parish priest, after a busy day's work, somewhere to lay down, kick back and watch TV. I have a small living room, and that occupies about half of it. It's very relaxing. And you know what? I've never needed that couch more than I did last Saturday evening. It was a long day. I was tired, been really busy, and when I get tired and I get worn out and fatigued and stressed, I get moody. Yeah? So I just need to be left on my own. So I go to my small living room, kick back on my couch, small bottle of beer. It's looking good. I think, okay, I'll start to feel better, you know? Anyway, but Jordan and Sean are in the living room, and they're having a good time, they're having a laugh, and it's kind of cheering me up, making me smile. They're having a good time. And they start to get a bit of rough and tumble going on. So Sean throws a beanie hat at Jordan's face. So Jordan has to retaliate, right? So he picks up the nearest thing at his disposal, which was this 4-litre bottle of ketchup. They've been having some chicken, so they needed their ketchup. So he threw this bottle at Sean. But what he didn't realise was that Sean hadn't quite fixed the cap on the top of the ketchup. Yeah. So it flies, it's like slow-mo. I'm kind of laying back like this, and it's like one of those movies where it's like, no. You see the lid flies off, the ketchup shoots out. It lands on the couch and just shoots all ketchup. Yeah. And then somehow, like miraculously even, bounces back. And then goes all over the floor as well. A lovely soft carpet. So I could tell by the shock on their face, the horror, as they were looking at it. It was like one of those like murder scenes in a movie, it's just blood everywhere. They were like, and then they looked at me, it's like, and I was just laying back. I couldn't see the full extent of the damage. I just said, I'm going to go to my room. And I'm not coming down until it's all gone. Not just that, I was hungry, so I said, I'm going to come down and I want a 12 bar. I just wanted a 12 bar. So I went upstairs, I laid in my bed, I had my pajamas on, I had my hoodie on, I was just, angry. Half an hour later, I'm starting to calm down, and I get the text from Jordan. It's all clear, man. You can come down. So I kind of walking downstairs, like grumpy. And I just look around the living room, I just look at the couch, I'm like, okay. I turn around to go back to my room, and Jordan goes, here's your 12 bar. So I snatched it out of his hand, and I went upstairs, and I got back in my bed. So by this time, I'm texting a friend, telling her what's happened. And I've got my 12 bar in my hand, which has cheered me up a bit. I've got a can of Coke Zero in the other. I'm just laying back like a slob, like eating this 12 bar and drinking this can of Coke. And I texted her this, a picture of myself with my 12 bar. And I think the line underneath said it all. I am appeased. Yeah? The angry God had been calmed down. The sacrifice had been offered. And but it made me think. It did make me think. What Jordan and Sean had offered me, having made right that which had gone wrong, they'd offered me a peace offering, a tribute to kind of calm down my anger and say, everything's okay. We can go back to being friends again. And it kind of worked. Do you know? That kind of gift worked on me. I was angry, and it just kind of calmed me down, as chocolate tends to do to a man. Okay. But it made me think that there are other kinds of offerings, aren't they? Or sacrificial offerings. We have the peace offering, or the appeasement offering, to kind of get something, or rather to maybe stave something off, anger or whatever it is. And we see that in our relationships. Like, for example, flowers and chocolates. That tends to follow an explosive argument, whatever, or some kind of really nice, colourful gift, just to kind of say, okay, I want to make peace with you again and re-establish our relationship. But then there's another kind of offering, and I'm going to call this the just enough. The just enough offering. Now I was thinking, okay, what symbolizes just enough? And I thought of myself again, funnily enough, and all the new men I meet on the 24th of December every year, when we're at the shopping mall, doing the last minute Christmas shopping. The just enough offering. I've got to get a gift because it's what you're supposed to do for Christmas, and they'll be angry if I don't get a gift. I'm going to get a gift. That's the just enough offering. But then there's the third kind of gift. The third kind of gift I want to speak about today. And I think that's best characterized not by the amount it costs or the quality of the offering, but the heart that was in it. It's the giving of love. It's the giving of gratitude. Now, I can't think of a better example of this than the gift you get from a child. Do you know when, a child come up to school and they've put all their time and effort into making you a Christmas card or a birthday card, or even making mum and dad a gift. I've received a lot myself. When I've, at Christmas, the kids will always make me a lovely card, homemade, coloured in, and so with a message like, "We love you, Father James," or something like that. And I know, for example, the gifts that I put most of my heart into were the gifts from my mum at school. They mean so much. They might not cost a lot. They might not be made of the best stuff, but the heart and the effort that went into them means the absolute world. They're a symbol of something much greater than the sum of their parts. That's a person giving themselves to you. That's the gift of love and gratitude. And those are the gifts that we treasure. They're the ones I look back on to see how much I'm loved. So I kind of want to talk about giving, because this is the second homily of our giving series. In that context, so how do we see giving? Do we see it as a peace offering, or as a just enough, or as a gift of love and gratitude? So we'll look at the first one first. So giving as a peace offering. Now, you might think, well, that's not the way we give to God, but it can really get into our attitude of many things. In fact, it's our heritage. Before Christ rose from the dead, the people of Israel were surrounded by different pagan cultures which saw God in this way. And in fact, even in our own country, it's May, right? We're in the month of May. May the 1st, May Day. That was a big pagan ritual. Dancing around the maypole, we all know about that, right? It's a very English tradition. Well, that came from the pagan ritual of the sun, of the worship of the sun god on the 1st of May. It's the beginning of spring, and so the farmers need good crops. That means they need good weather. And so they would dance around a bonfire, a symbol of the sun, and throw their sacrifices, their first crops, or whatever they had. They throw things of value onto the fire as a symbol of their desire to get something from the sun god. And that was to have a good spring and have a good harvest and so on. The ladies would throw their sacrifices on the fire for the gift of fertility, because spring is the time of year when all things spring to life. So it was very, very important. But when things went wrong, it went from offering gifts to get something to something else entirely. When the weather was bad, when things weren't going so well, when the ladies perhaps couldn't have the babies, then the sacrifices got more intense. And they got so intense that those sacrifices even went as far as human sacrifice, to appease what they perceived to be an angry God. Now, the God of Israel rails against this attitude or this understanding of giving, because it defines a relationship. Is our God angry with us? Does he need to be appeased? Is he someone who is going to demand something for us before he gives us anything? Well, clearly not. This is what he says in Isaiah. Your endless sacrifices, what do I care about them? The more you pray, the more I refuse to listen. Because if you're giving me something just to get something in return, or you see me as an angry God, we're not on the same wavelength. We're not having the same conversation. He says, this is the sacrifice I want. Put an end to your wickedness. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Comfort the oppressed. Give orphans their rights and plead for the widow. You see, the purpose of giving, of a sacrifice to the God of Israel, wasn't to add to his stock because he owns everything already. It was rather to produce a heart that would win justice for the poor and the marginalized and make God's love known in the world. And that's how our giving ties into our parish purpose. We give to grow a family of disciples for God's kingdom, united by Jesus' mission to make God's love known to the rest of the world, to the whole world, for him to make a home in our hearts. This is the sacrifice that God requires of us. This is the sacrifice that our giving is meant to represent and to feed. A broken spirit is my sacrifice, O Lord. A humble and contrite heart you will not spurn, so that God's justice is done in the world. Then there's the just enough offering, or rather I call it the legalistic offering. So this is where we know what the rules are, and in the absence of rules we'll do just enough to meet the bill, just enough for us to be okay. That really is giving God the very minimum of ourselves. The church sets a minimum for things so that we may at least do the minimum, but we're always taught to aspire to more. Look what Jesus says to those who do the minimum. Woe to you Pharisees, you give tenths of everything, even of your mint and herbs, but you neglect the justice and the love of God. These you ought to have practiced without neglecting the others. You see, Jesus respects the law. He sees the law as the pathway to freedom, to new life. So he says, observe the law, pay the tithe. But if you see it as the be-all and end-all, it will mean you give God the bare minimum. You will give him none of what he truly desires, which is for you to be a child of God, to be his justice and love in the world. So God doesn't want the bare minimum from us or just enough. He calls for everything. He says, give to God what belongs to God. And everything belongs to God. And then there's giving as love and gratitude. We hear it in today's second reading. This is the love I mean, John says. Not our love for God, but God's love for us, when he sent his only Son to be the sacrifice that takes our sins away. Let us love since he loved us first. When we're in love with someone, when you fall in love with someone, you want to give them the best of everything. You want to give them the first of everything. Think of a marriage proposal. When you first fall in love with someone, you want to spend all your time with them until it gets to the point where you say, not only is this person good for me, but I'm going to offer myself because I can be good for them. And when you get married, when you make a commitment of life, you hand over all of yourself, the very best and the very fruit first of all that you have. A little pop quiz for you. When Joshua, having left Moses behind on Mount Nebo, began to enter the promised land, what was the first city they had to conquer? Oh, who said it? Who said it? Well done. Jericho. Excellent. Joshua chapter 6. So it's funny, I've got a slide up here somewhere, I'm not going to go to it. So Jericho was a walled city. It was fortified, it was rich. And you imagine they've been walking through the desert for 40 years and they're like, okay, we're finally here. And God says, see that really big, powerful town over there? There you go, that huge one. You got to go and conquer that. And they're like, oh, no way. But by the power of God, they enter that city and they take that city. And you think to yourself, well, they're finally in the promised land. But God says to them when they've taken it, Jericho is mine. All of its gold, all of its silver, all of its bronze belongs to the Lord. No one is to touch Jericho because it was the first fruits the first city taken, the symbol of the promise that God made to his people. And from there, the holy people, the people of Israel, could enjoy the rest of the fruit of land. By turning over their first fruits to God, they were blessed in abundance in what followed. And we see that throughout the Bible. Those who give of their first and those who give of their best are blessed by God in ways they couldn't even imagine. And so it's with that we say, okay, fine. Okay, so I give of my first. That's what I can give. But then we always say, okay, but what can I give? What portion or what amount can I give to the mission of God's church, to our parish purpose and our mission? And there is a strong biblical principle. I'm going to go back to it. Here we go. There we go. It's the tithe, the 1/10. You might say, well, that's a lot. It has to be our first tenth. But it's the principle that runs all throughout the Bible. From the very first encounter God had with Abraham, God met Melchizedek, a type of Jesus, and when Melchizedek offered the sacrifices, he said this to Abraham: "Blessed be Abraham by God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. Blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands." And Abraham gave him the 10th part of everything. It was natural for him to say, whatever is my first, the first 10th of all I have, I turn it over to the Lord. I turn it over to his people, his priesthood, so that his mission and his church may grow. Jacob, when he's on the run from Esau, has a dream. And in that dream, God shows him the fulfillment of the promise. He shows him the foundation of Israel. Jacob wakes up from this dream, and the soon-to-be Israel says, all that you give to me, or all that you gave to me, I will give a full 10th to you. Jacob turns over the first 10th of everything he has. And then Israel is founded. The people of Jacob's family, from being a tribe, become a nation. And it becomes law in the book of Leviticus. Every tithe of the land is the Lord's. As Jericho was the Lord's, every first 10th, every tithe of the land is the Lord's. Now, Jesus often mentions the tithe obliquely. In fact, he mentions it a lot, but it's so normal to him, it's so normal to his culture to give of the first 10th that he never deals with it specifically, but always consequentially. So when he talks to the Pharisees, he's like, okay, you give your 10th. That's great, good start, but what next? So Jesus respects and reinforces the tithe, that our first fruits belong to God. What is God's first fruits for us? It's Jesus. And he offers him to be the sacrifice that takes our sins away. And Jesus does hold up a model in the New Testament, in the gospel, and it's the widow. You see, all the rich people are at the temple, and they're throwing in what they have left over. And it may be a lot, and it may have done a lot of good for the temple and for the people of Israel. But Jesus looked past all of them, and he looked to the widow. You see, the widow gave everything she had to live on. Not just a portion, not just a piece, but everything. That was symbolic. Her offering was symbolic. She wasn't giving just all her money, but rather through her gift was giving all her heart to the temple. Everything she had. Now next week, we're going to bring to a close with the third of our giving series of homilies. And we're going to call this Sunday Commitment Sunday. And I'm going to invite all of you to take that leap, to offer the first 10th of your treasure, of your income. Before you think about the mortgage, before you think about the bills, to think first of the mission of this church, of God's kingdom, and how your treasure can build that up. Now, I know what you're thinking, straight away, like, money, oh gosh, like, wow, that's a big ask. Some of you might be thinking, that's no way. Some of you might be thinking, that's great. Whatever it is, it's going to be on the mind. And it's been on my mind for a long time, because I couldn't stand up here had I not decided and already started to give a 10th of my own income. I'd be a hypocrite standing here if I couldn't say that to you, that I'm already doing that. It is a big jump. And perhaps for many, like you might think, it's a jump too far. And I'm going to challenge you to think and pray about it on this week and take that jump anyway. But if you can't, if you really, really can't, then go towards it. Make it 9%, 8%, whatever it is. Make that commitment to the Lord. And next Sunday with those cards, we'll give you a card each to tick what you are going to commit to the Lord. What belongs to the Lord first? And you're going to have the opportunity to offer that at the altar next Sunday. Now, I'm going to make you a deal as well. Yeah? So, deal or no deal. And it's this. I believe in the blessing of the Lord. And I believe that whatever we give to him, he restores 10, 30, 50, and 100-fold in his blessings. Whatever portion of our heart, represented by our income, that we give to the Lord, he blesses us. And so I'm going to make you this guarantee. If you commit your tithe, or whatever proportion of your income you commit to the mission of this church, if you are not experiencing the blessing of the Lord in 6 months, if you say to yourself after 6 months, my life hasn't been changed, I'm not experiencing the blessing of the Lord through my generous gift, every single one of you, I'll give you your money back. Do we got a deal? Is that a deal? Amen.